admit that my initial curiosity about canning purple cabbage was because I saw photographs of it and it looks stunning in a jar. But the few minutes that I spent swooning were quickly interrupted by my skeptical and practical side. Because if canned cabbage was going to turn out mushy or flavorless, I'd happily skip it. So I'm here to tell you, don't skip it. Pickled purple cabbage slaw that you can can right at home isn't any of those things. In fact, it's 4 other things. First, purple cabbage slaw totally retains its crunch. What? You don't believe me? I knew it. I knew it. No, I've got to show it. I'm gonna prove this to you. It really does. I was the same exact way. So, y'all, I just finished canning this. Yep. Here we go. Woo, heard that sound. Y'all, look. This recipe is amazing. Are we ready? Are we ready? Okay, let me pick you up. It's crunchy. Second, it has a savory, mildly spicy flavor that is delicious. Third, this recipe is terribly easy to make. I mean, if you can boil water and tell time, you can easily make this canning recipe. But don't stop there, because this preservation project is part of a series hosted by my dear friend Constance from the channel and blog A Good Life Farm. There's always something being baked, simmered, canned, or fermented all from scratch in her kitchen, along with conversation and encouragement that will feed your soul too. Joining Constance every day this month are 20 other canning collaborators with faces you probably already know and others you'll love to meet. Check out the playlist, which includes each collaborator's channel, so that you don't miss out on all the canning joy that we're sending to you. Fourth, purple cabbage is an extremely handy garnish to have in your pantry. It plays nicely on almost any meal, so it won't be something that just sits on your shelf. Let me show you a few meal ideas and then we'll get straight to the recipe. Purple cabbage for breakfast? Yeah, why not? If you're looking for a breakfast meal that'll keep you full and energized, you must try waking up to a delicious, healthy, colorful, and nutritious red cabbage slaw bowl. Combine healthy starches alongside kale that's been massaged with tahini dressing and whatever veggies you have on hand. Then add your red cabbage slaw to give this a complimentary tang, crunch, and savory flavor that brings everything all together. Now, I enjoy sliding a fried egg on top, but you can totally customize this to your liking. Here are some lunch ideas you'll love. Y'all, you can make a boutique blue cheeseburger with pear and red cabbage slaw right at home. Combine your slaw with a few fixings and Dijon, then chill it in the fridge. Top your patties with garlic and parsley, then transfer them to a stove to cook. The earthy mushroom notes from sliced blue cheese pair perfectly with cabbage slaw, so melt some of this on top of your burger. Slide your patty onto a butter-toasted bun and assemble. This burger is shamelessly decadent with punchy, sweet, and crisp notes. Serve it with a side of sweet potato fries and enjoy every bite of your burger. That burger was amazing. And you will not get the same satisfying flavor without the purple cabbage slaw. Now let's move to dinner. Next up is a Korean-inspired rice bowl, which also comes together pretty quick after you assemble a soy sauce or liquid amino glaze. The best part of this recipe is that it's pretty darn healthy for you. If you use lean beef, turkey, or chicken, you've got yourself a low-fat meal. This dish is simply one word: flavorful. So my family is used to that dish, but y'all, purple cabbage is such an attractive garnish that it really makes basic meals just seem more impressive. Because a couple of times I've made that dish when friends come over and they're like, oh, you didn't have to go through all that. And I'm like, I didn't. It's just another reason to consider keeping a few jars of this on hand. This recipe is for days or nights when you don't have a lot of time to cook anything, but you still need to put a tasty meal on the table. All you need is a jar or two of your red cabbage slaw and sausage brats or links. After cooking your meat, dump in a can of your cabbage and heat until warm. Voila, dinner is done. There are so many ways to use your home canned cabbage. Anytime you want to add a little pizzazz, color, or crunch, you'll find yourself reaching for these jars. If we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Cassandra from the blog BecomingAFarmGirl.com. I'm here to help you start canning and preserving your own ingredients right at home and share ways to use your home canned pantry and meals your family will love. We're gonna move straight into the recipe now, but as always, the link to the printable directions is below. For returning friends that enjoy my canning videos and have OCD like me, obsessive canning delight, keep calm because you've already got the recipe, blog post, photographs, and video already in your inbox. And if you like to start getting detailed and delicious canning recipes straight to your inbox, that link is below. Now, it's just canning recipes, it's not a newsletter. And I'll see you here in a couple minutes when we talk about canning safety, recipe tips, and a few other things. Now let's start canning some cabbage. Since we'll have some parts of the cabbage that we won't be using, I like to grab my scrap collector from the fridge, which hooks onto a kitchen drawer for easy cleanup. After washing your cabbage, remove the large outer leaves, then cut the cabbage into quarters and core. Next, shred your cabbage using a grater or a knife. Transfer your cabbage to a large bowl and add pickling or canning salt. Use your hands to thoroughly massage the cabbage until you start to see some liquid being drawn out. Cover with a clean cloth and let stand between 12 and 24 hours in the fridge or on a cool counter. Home canned ingredients are delicious and cost effective, but you also want them to be safe. So always make sure you're using tested instructions for the foods you're pickling and canning, which is why all the recipes that I share are from approved preservation authorities like the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the National Center for Home Food Preservation, and companies like Ball and Bernardin. The recipe that I'm sharing with you today is one that I adapted from an essential canning recipe book, which is the Ball Blue Book Guide to Preserving. You'll love this book because you'll get over 500 recipes that cover a wide range of canning, drying, and freezing. The only problem you'll have is deciding what to can first. Now, the newer editions have a You Choose feature, which is a symbol that shares proven and tasty recipe variations. The link to this and all of the canning equipment featured in this video are in the description box below. As always, I'm gonna look down at some of my recipe notes, but here's what you need to know before you make this recipe. Since vinegar is acidic, this is the agent that provides the preservation power to keep your food safe and shelf stable. So Ball's recipe calls for red wine vinegar, but I cut that and added rice wine vinegar. And the vinegar you use is interchangeable as long as you use 5% acidity, meaning you want to stick with your store-bought stuff, not your homemade. I love rice vinegar and I'm not brand loyal. In fact, I actually like to mix them up, and these are the two that I used. You've got to look at the labels carefully on what you purchase. Some are more sweet and tangy flavor, and then others are more mild and sweet, and so I often prefer just to have an eclectic mix, and rice vinegar just takes this over the top. Now, white vinegar has a more subtle taste and will not discolor the product. The same is true of rice vinegar. But apple cider vinegar has a more subtle taste, but it will darken things. But the best recipe is really the vinegar combination that your family prefers. So don't be afraid to take a few sample tests or play around with your vinegars to get that perfect taste. All right, this next one is important, y'all. Canning is a science, and the ratio of salt to vinegar is important, so don't mess with that. And speaking of salt, stick with kosher or pickling salt. Now, using table or iodized salt isn't necessarily life-threatening. It can just cake together and make the cabbage cloudy or change the color. Now, I love the bright color of purple cabbage, but if all you have is green cabbage, you can absolutely substitute that and it'll turn out just fine. Now, red cabbage does have a higher vitamin and antioxidant content, and while some of that leaches out during processing, it just transfers straight straight into the brine. Oh, so I did not show this, but if you want to make this a true slaw, you can toss this with some mayo, or I've even tried yogurt, and then serve it alongside fried chicken or fish. It's delicious. The color of purple cabbage will bleed into the brine the longer that it sits on your shelf, so you may notice some color variation of the brine. As long as you've maintained your seal, this is absolutely safe and normal. All right, those are all the recipe tips I have for now. Be sure to check out the coordinating blog post. Now let's get back to canning our cabbage.
Let's make the brine, which uses vinegar, sugar, and a spice mix. Use a locking spice ball, disposable tea bags, or even a reusable drawstring tea bag to hold your spices. Add black peppercorns, mustard seeds, cinnamon sticks, and pickling spices like caraway seeds and whole allspice. Bring the mixture to a boil for 5 minutes. Grab sterilized lids, rings, and jars. Pack cabbage into a hot jar, leaving a ½ inch of headspace, and then ladle the hot pickling liquid over the cabbage, maintaining your headspace. If desired, add pickle crisp, which is a food-grade calcium chloride preservative that helps keep pickles from going soft. Remove air bubbles and clean the jar rim to remove any spilled residue that could prevent your lid from sealing. Center the lid on the jar and adjust the band until it's fingertip tight. Place a jar rack at the bottom of a large stock pot and place the jars on the rack, adding enough simmering water to cover the jars by 1 to 2 inches. Bring the water to a rolling boil for 20 minutes for pint-sized jars. Turn off the heat and remove the lid, but wait 5 minutes before removing the jars to cool for 12 hours. Check the seals and then label and store your jars. Now, don't forget to keep track of your inventory by recording this session in your canning journal. If you'd like to check out my printable and reusable canning journal, that link is below.
Don't forget to click the link to start getting canning recipes and meal ideas straight to your inbox. I'll see you in my kitchen or garden soon. Take care, friends.